Welcome to Filer, fourth grade living history 2020. Due to the current situation in the world with COVID-19 and all the restrictions going on, especially since all of you are stuck home, we still wanted you to be able to have a little bit of the living history that we present. And so my name's Ryan. This is my wife, Alyssa. We're going to walk through a little bit of how life would have been on the farm in Idaho about 100 years ago. So keep in mind that 100 years ago, that was just prior to what was known as rural electrification. So what a rural electrification was, it was the building of all of the hydroelectric dams that we have along the rivers, much like the Minidoka Dam over to Rupert. And so with those dams, we received electricity. We had power. So all of a sudden, we could have power to supply our houses and our farms and our equipment. Well, 100 years ago, we didn't have that. So things had to be done differently on the farm. And that required either manual labor, where the individual themselves input the labor to achieve the desired outcome or to get the work done, or they used machines that were gas powered, much like this engine over here and this washing machine off to my right here that we'll talk about in a while. But they utilized mechanical machines that burned fuel to complete their task. Now, 100 years ago, by far the most popular engines would be gasoline powered. But just prior to that, steam was also very popular. But today, everything that we utilize today to produce power is either going to be man-powered, or in this case, woman-powered today, or it will be powered by gasoline. So I'm going to break away here, and Alyssa's going to walk you through this sheller. This is an International Harvester Company sheller. She's going to explain the process to you and how it works.
Back 100 years ago, they would take, we still feed our chickens corn, but they had a different process of getting the chicken feed than we do now. Now we just go to the feed store and it's ready for us to buy in bags, which they had to make their own back then. So this is corn that was grown in the field and dried. It's not like just picked fresh from the field. They have to dry it before they can use it. So you can't feed your chickens whole kernels of corn. They need to have it broken up because chickens don't have teeth. So in order to do that, they would use this corn sheller. It's going to take the corn right off this cob here. So they put it in the top here, and they turn this handle. Takes the corn right off of the cob and puts it into the bucket and shoots the cob out the other end over here. So then they would take this corn, they still can't feed it to the chickens this way, it's just off the cob. So they take the corn and they would move to the next step, which my husband Ryan will tell you what the next step is.
One of the things that we discussed earlier was about motive power or power on the farm 100 years ago. So prior to about the mid-19th century, the 1850s, all power on the farm was either provided by the farmer or by livestock or draft animal of some means. In the mid-1800s, we really started to see the full development of steam. We had steam trains, and that really provided motive power. And we started having stationary steam engines. Stationary steam engines led to the development of steam traction engines, which are the earliest forms of tractors. With the development of steam, we started looking for new fuels to power steam so that it wasn't only wood or coal, but we started looking at petroleum products. Well, with refined petroleum products, we started to develop things like gasoline and diesel. So gasoline was a huge new thing for the world. And in the late 1800s, around the 1880s, some of the first engines were developed that would run on petroleum products. Now this engine here, this is a Stover. This engine was actually built in about 1930. This engine runs on gasoline and it produces 3 horsepower. It's hit and miss governed. So hit and miss governing works by limiting the amount of fuel the engine draws by actually holding the exhaust valve open. Where your mother's car or your father's truck uses what's referred to as an air governed engine, on those engines they're throttle governed. And so they limit the amount of air. This engine's all about limiting the amount of fuel to produce power. So on your farm, especially 100 years ago, you might have an engine like this or something similar. Utilizing a belt, you could run the different implements. So implements are tools that are used. This implement is a CS Bell burr mill. So this burr mill is used to take that whole corn that Alyssa talked to you about earlier and break it down into something that we can use to feed our animals. Of course, prior to the invention of steam engines and later gasoline engines, all of that work would have to be done by the farmer or using an animal to transfer that power. Fortunately, because of the invention of gasoline engines, this really revolutionized how things can be done on the farm, especially in rural America. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to start this engine up. So we're going to lift this little lever, which retards the ignition, and we'll give it a pull here to see if it'll start. Now you'll see that belt runs, but an issue we have, we'll shut the engine off here, and this is actually a fairly common problem you would see in the period, is the belt came off of the implement. So we can go ahead, we can get that line back up, we'll loosen up the burrs a little bit so there's less force on the engine and on the mill. So let's go ahead, we'll start this up, and this is what a farmer would go through on a daily basis. They would have to line their equipment up, get everything set, and get it ready to run. So now this engine's running, we can come over to our burr mill, and we're going to adjust this burr mill so that we can make some corn feed for our chickens. So we're going to take that whole corn that we shelled, and we're going to run it through our burr mill here. And what we've done is we've broke that corn up into something that the chickens themselves can actually eat and enjoy. So we're going to go ahead, we'll shut this engine down, and we're going to move over and we're going to show you a couple of chickens and show you that they really do like the corn. So to turn the engine off, we're just going to press this button again. And that shuts down this engine, so the farmer would be ready to run another day. Now, an important thing I want to note about this engine is it's actually water cooled. There's water in the hopper here. If you run it for long periods of time, you'll see steam start to boil off this, which requires you continuously add water to keep the engine from becoming too hot and overheating. So this is a hit and miss engine, and its implement. You can imagine this really revolutionized farm life. It made farm life so much easier. Because now, rather than me having to do the work to produce chicken feed, I have a machine and an implement that'll provide that power and do it for me. Here we have a couple of chickens. This is Bertha and Thelma. They produce eggs. They don't hatch eggs. All they do is produce eggs. So we took that corn that we ground earlier, and we could throw it out for them. And as you can see, they really like their corn. They're getting excited. We call this scratch. Now we can put it in their feeder, but these girls, they really like a special treat of just corn, because corn's sweet. And most animals, just like you guys, have a bit of a sweet tooth, so they like sweet things. So taking this straight corn and throwing it out there for them gives them some scratch, which keeps them busy. Chickens like to have something to do, but it also gives them something to snack on, and it's a little sweet without all the grains and things that we put in their other feed when we make it. All right, ladies, enjoy your snack.
This is a Maytag washing machine. Back before they had these gas-powered washing machines, people had to do their laundry using washboards and tubs of water, meaning they manually had to scrub the clothes on the washboard and then rinse the clothes and then hang them out to dry. So when the gas-powered engines came around, companies started building washing machines, and there's several different types of washing machines that were available. But this is a Maytag washing machine, and it is one of the most common washing machines that were sold. They sold lots of them, and they came in a few different styles. This is a round tub, and it is one of the last new models that they sold before they moved to electric machines. I also have a square tub Maytag washing machine, but we are just showing the round tub today. This runs on a two-cycle engine that Maytag built and designed, and they came with their engine, but some washing machines came and they would run on like hit and miss engines. They would be belted to a hit and miss engine. Oftentimes, laundry was done on the porch or out or in a back room, and they'd run a pipe out the window so the exhaust did not fill the house with fumes. And this is what they would use to do their laundry, which really freed the day because they could put the load of laundry in and let it agitate for a while, and then they could come back and do the rinse and run it through the wringer and then hang it out to dry. So this machine changed the lives of people because they were able to accomplish other things while their laundry was washing on its own in the washing machine. We're going to pause this for a moment and we'll get it started, and then we'll show you how this machine works. Okay, now that the engine is running, they would put their clothes in and a little bit of soap and some water, and then they would pull this round part here in the front, and it starts the agitation cycle. So they would let this go for a while, and put the lid on it, and let it sit, run a cycle typical to what you would do at home. When the time was up, then they would come and
enjoyed Filer 4th grade Living History 2020. As you can tell, these machines really did revolutionize American life. And one of the major things about them is they introduced something new that Americans, or the average American, had never had. They had free time. When you could wash your laundry in a half a day or a third of a day instead of the entire day, when you could grind more corn, feed more animals, grow more livestock, you could make more money, and you had free time. And the amazing thing about free time is it opened up time for hobbies. So fast forward from when this engine was built or that washing machine was built, and here we are in this day and age. And the irony of it is these machines that for the first time provided Americans free time for hobbies are now our hobbies. We're not actually farmers. We do have a little bit of land here, and we have animals. You saw the chickens, and we do produce feed and whatnot for our chickens. But really, this is our hobby. It's what we do for fun.
Yes, we enjoy showing these engines and washing machines and tractors at shows around the area, and we sometimes travel to show them too.
Yeah, we're so excited about this. We travel out to the Oregon coast every year to show and participate in this. So we hope you've enjoyed this and give you guys some idea of what American history was like 100 years ago. Here at the end of the video, we'll include some pictures of other ways that engines were used. And one of the major things that engines were used for was to replace the horse. And they replaced horses through powering tractors. So we'll include some pictures of some different tractors that we have that are actually close to or over 100 years old. So we'll provide some pictures and some still shots of those tractors and what they look like. And you can get a bit of an idea of how really revolutionary this was to the American lifestyle 100 years ago, and how something that provided free time for the first time in this day and age can become a hobby. Good luck at home. We hope you're surviving your COVID isolation and your at-home schooling. Enjoy the rest of your school year. We look forward to seeing you all next year because many of you go to school with our sons. We hope you enjoy this. Have a great summer.